Hey everyone, it's John. Welcome to the channel where I talk about lots of different topics in clear, natural English, maybe something good for intermediate level learners. このチャンネルはいろんなトピックを優しい自然な英語で話します。中級者にとってはいいリスニングだと思います。Oh, and now there's quizzes as well. クイズもあります。Let's begin. So today I'm talking about Eikaiwas, English language schools in Japan. Now, I worked for one of the big Eikaiwa companies for 1 year, and that was the first job that got me to Japan. I have a lot to say about my experience as a teacher, but today I'm just going to focus on the student side of things. The experience for a student. Is it good for your learning? Is it a waste of money? I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons. So if you've never been to an Eikaiwa, what happens first when you walk in? If you walk in to any Eikaiwa, you will probably be greeted by the staff. They will sit you down and they will have a short interview with you. Now, this might seem a little bit scary, especially if you're not used to speaking in English, but the main reason for the interview is simply to gauge your level and see which kind of class would be good for you. There's no way to fail the interview. Like, they're a business, they would like you to join. They would like your money. So yeah, please don't worry so much about the interview. Don't feel like you have to really prepare for it. I'm not going to share like a lot of the questions you commonly get asked for an interview, because if you practice really hard for that, they might think that your level is higher than it actually is, and then you go and join a higher level class and you can't understand so much. So, you know, preparing for the interview is not really the best thing to do. If you think your English level is quite high, then please don't be discouraged if you go to the interview and they think that your level is lower than you believe it is, because that is often by design. Their job isn't to make you feel good about your English. In fact, usually it's the opposite. Their job is to make you feel like you need to take more lessons. Is this wrong? I think it kind of depends how much they do that. Now, of course, I only worked for one Eikaiwa company. I've spoken to a couple of friends that have worked for different ones, and generally there will be like 3 different types of classes. Firstly, there will be grammar classes. They're typically more expensive and have smaller class sizes. Then there are group lessons, which are usually around 8 to 10, 12 people. You would have to ask the manager at the Eikaiwa exactly what the cap is for, you know, the student and teacher ratio. But typically, yeah, around 8, 10, 12 people in a class. And then there are private lessons, which if you have the money for it, you can have your own slot with your own teacher and see them each week. Now, of course, if you pay for a private lesson, you have a lot more control as to how the lesson is going to go. If you want to focus on one particular area of study, then usually you can do that with a private lesson. But I'm going to assume that you are not filthy rich and are more interested in the standard lessons. So just to give you a quick typical lesson, like how it's structured if you were to join, say, a group lesson. You will be given a textbook, and each lesson usually covers 1, maybe 2 chapters of the textbook. Now, these textbooks, I have nothing bad to say about them. They are usually very well written and they are designed to be read in the classes with a teacher. They're not designed for self-study. However, you are expected to look at the chapters before going for your class. So the lesson begins and the teacher will often just have a few minutes of warming up with you, free talking, asking about your weekend or, you know, anything, some small talk, and then they will usually start the chapter. The structure is usually some kind of vocabulary list, then a reading section where those vocabulary words or those grammar points have been put into a real conversation, and then there will be some kind of expansion where you take those key points and you make up your own conversations with them. Then the teacher will ask if you have any questions, if there's any words you don't understand. If not, then you'll all go straight to the reading section, and the teacher might read everything out first. They might ask you to read it. They might ask you to read it in pairs with each other. This will sometimes come with a CD where you listen to the same section, and sometimes they'll do shadowing where the CD is playing, you're not supposed to look at your book, you're supposed to, close your eyes and say everything that's being said on the CD. It's known as shadowing. And this is a great way to make sure that you're catching everything, and it's good training. It's good training for your listening. Then you'll be encouraged to think about the teaching point and have some group work, maybe partner up or make a smaller group and have a discussion, trying to use those lesson points in your conversation, with the teacher coming and checking in on you, observing all the other groups, making sure that you're, keeping on point, not making mistakes. They're a lot of fun. Don't think of it as like a classroom, back to school. Eikaiwas are designed for you to enjoy speaking and to build your confidence. Okay, question time. Let's see how much you have managed to understand today. Question 1, what is the main reason for having an interview? Clock this way. It is to gauge or check your level. Question 2, which type of lessons are the most expensive? The answer is, of course, private lessons. Question 3, what is it called when you listen to a CD and try and repeat everything that's said? It's called shadowing. So I've talked about a typical lesson, how it's structured. What are the good and bad points of joining an Eikaiwa? Okay, firstly, the good points. Number 1, most important, it is really good for your confidence to practice speaking English if you don't have many chances to do so. It's also going to be very good motivation if you always put off studying for a later date. If you know that you're going to the Eikaiwa on, say, Fridays, then that gives you a deadline. Oh, okay, I need to read my textbook before this day. Otherwise, it's going to be not as enjoyable and I'm not going to learn as much. And also, the content is really good. The textbooks that I noticed from the Eikaiwa I worked at had a lot of good teaching points. The topics were always really interesting, they were engaging, and everything that was in them generally was very useful. So let's talk about some of the not so good points, things that you need to keep in mind. Firstly, Eikaiwas are businesses and it is their job to get as much money from you as they can. That's just the way it is. So with that in mind, firstly, a lot of Eikaiwas are known for trying to sell you extra materials that you don't really need. Now, of course, I was talking about a textbook being used for a lesson. That textbook is essential and it might come with a CD as well. But I'm talking more about supplementary things that they might try to sell you. Oh, if you want to also learn about this thing, they will often, they'll often try and push those on you. The next thing that's not always very good, and I feel a little bit strange saying this, are the teachers. Now, there's very often a lot of inexperienced teachers at these companies. If the company is not good for the staff, then the staff is going to change over quite a lot. There's often going to be a lot of teachers without much experience. Most Eikaiwas will only give their teachers 1 to 2 weeks training when they start. And these are not people that have teaching licenses. They weren't necessarily a teacher in their home country. They are usually just a native English speaker that has a degree in something. My degree was in media and I'd never taught before. I did feel quite guilty at the beginning, feeling like I wasn't a good enough teacher considering how much my students were paying to have me as their teacher. Of course, there will be some fantastic teachers that really care about what they're doing, teachers that are very talented, teachers that are great at explaining all of your questions and concerns that you have, but that's not always the case. And your teacher could change throughout the course that you've paid for. The last, the bit that I want to add, it's not even against the Eikaiwas, it's simply that 1 hour of studying a week is just that, it's 1 hour of studying. If you think that by putting in 1 hour a week at an Eikaiwa, your English is suddenly going to skyrocket, then you're going to be disappointed. Is it a good 1 hour per week at an Eikaiwa? Yeah, definitely. Great for your confidence, like I said, good motivation, the vocabulary, the exercises, it's all great, but it is just 1 hour. So I guess putting the good and the bad together, going to an Eikaiwa is great as a supplement to your studying. It's not going to do everything for you to make you reach a higher level, but if you have the extra money for it, it's definitely a great way to give you a boost. So lastly, if you are going to go to an Eikaiwa, here's just a few tips I have to make it a better experience for you. Firstly, the schedule. If you don't have a Monday to Friday 9 to 5, 9 to 6 job, then go to the Eikaiwa during that time, because you are going to have a smaller class and you're going to get more attention with your teacher. Second tip, do your homework. If you are paying a lot of money for 1 hour a week, you want that to be the best hour. You don't want to spend that hour trying to learn the vocabulary that you could have learnt before. That will be a waste of your money and your time. Please do what you can. It's going to help you get so much more from the Eikaiwa course if you try and prepare in the meantime. And also reviewing. The next tip is to make use of your classmates. If there's people you get on well with, try and get to your lesson a little bit earlier, and if they come earlier too, you can just have some free talk with them before the lesson starts. You can even go one step further and meet up with them for a drink, for coffee, and you can have your own English talk time with them. Eikaiwas are great for meeting people who live close to you, who are also interested in improving their English and are around the same level as you. That's a perfect combination. So yeah, try and use those people. That sounds so bad. They'll be using you as well, don't worry. The last tip, make mistakes. Make at least 1 mistake per lesson. Make at least 10 mistakes per lesson. That is the most important thing. Question 1. Typically, how much training do Eikaiwa teachers get before they start working? About 1 to 2 weeks. Question 2. Joining an Eikaiwa can be good for your confidence. Yes, it can be very good for your confidence. Question 3. Is it a good idea to meet with your classmates outside even though there's no teacher to correct you? Yes, do it. If you have any other questions about Eikaiwas, please leave them in the comments. I'll be very happy to answer some. And like I said, I might do a video on what it's like being a teacher in the future, because I have a lot to say on that as well. But that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, show some love, and I'll see you next time. Bye.